Like now. So, are we ready? Let's see if it works. Hi everyone. Um, we are hopefully ready to stream. And what's happening? Why YouTube isn't picking up this stuff? Okay, YouTube is late today. Whatever. It looks
I
like
think it's streaming on both platforms.
yeah. Looks like it's working, and we already have some viewers as well, so that's fine. It has been some time since our last live stream. There was stuff happening in both of our lives, in mine and Pavel's, but yeah, mostly I was just unable to schedule anything for a bunch of reasons. But today we have something special and very exciting. We have Dimitris Koutsipetsidis, our regular guest, but in an unregular format. We already tried this with Tom McEwen a few months before. A sort of live class. Well, it will be live for now, but it will be saved as a recording for posterity. I forgot everything I have to say. As usual, we are happy to see any comments, any questions. If you have anything to ask or to say about what Dimitris will be showing today, I guess most of the questions will be coming for Dimitris. Sometimes we get questions, but probably not today. Post them at any moment. We will find a good moment to pass them to Dimitris, and if it's possible to answer your question, hopefully Dimitris will answer you. By the way, hi Dimitris, nice to have you
Hello.
here.
Hi guys.
I launched this,
Tirade.
Yeah, tirade.
You also forgot to ask people to post where they're joining us from, because that's also always fun.
Yeah, exactly. How this thing will go today? We have some experience with Tom, as I said, and it was exciting and quite educational. But of course, there were some technical issues during the live stream. Probably we'll have some today because when we have a long pause, something always happens. But Dimitris will probably explain some stuff first, and then he will probably show some stuff, show how he makes some of the simplest tools. I will repeat probably once again that Dimitris will not show any elaborate tools, making of any elaborate tools today. Some stuff that some of the viewers maybe saw on the thumbnail or whatever. It's a more advanced tool making process. But even with the simplest tools, you can often achieve quite interesting results. And I hope Dimitris will talk about this a bit as well. Maybe we will, at some moment when Dimitris will be filing some stuff or something like that, maybe we will switch to show some of the photos from Instagram posts that Dimitris posted. So maybe there will be some illustrations there. We'll see how it goes. So how about that, Pasha? Did I forget something important?
I don't think so. Dimitris, what are we making today?
So today is going to be a brief introduction into tool making. However, the principles, I'll demonstrate, the techniques can be used to make all sorts of tools. We're going to be making 3 tools: a line, a teardrop, and a heart-shaped leaf.
Okay.
Then we'll see how to polish those tools, how to give them a smooth finish to get nice impressions out of them. And we'll also see at the end how to set them in a handle. And I'm going to be offering lots of tips along the way and explaining the process. with the exception of a groove at the center of the leaf, we're not really going to go into engraving because that's a whole different ball game. However, you can make a lot of tools, a great variety of tools using just files. It's not just simple shapes. It's let me check if I can. So you see, this is Tolkien's monogram. It's quite an intricate shape, and
Oh, stop, please stop. I ruined everything. I'm so sorry. I switched the view when you were showing the Tolkien tool, but I didn't copy the audio source. So yeah, I'm sorry. Our viewers didn't hear you, Dimitris, for a few moments. You'll probably have to repeat some stuff. Let give me a moment. I will fix the sound first, and then that's. I'm not
rusty.
Not happy today that's what's happening here.
It's okay, it happens.
Let me see. Copy.
Files. You mean the tool you use to make tool?
Files, regular files in different shapes.
Okay.
With different profiles.
Now we should have a sound from you, Dimitris. So if you could please repeat the stuff you've been talking.
Where should I
at the moment
repeat from?
Yeah, at the moment that so viewers say to us that at the moment when you told that you're going to show us how to make 3 different tools and handles, and then yeah, sorry about that.
That far back or from the monogram?
I think it should have been from monogram, but yeah,
Okay.
because I switched to the large view when you were showing Tolkien's monogram.
Okay. I was saying that you can make pretty intricate patterns, designs for your decorative tools using just files if you're patient enough. And the other thing I was going to say is that you don't need to spend a lot of money to start making your own tools. Basically, all you need is a number of files, a hammer, a drill, a saw to cut your brass stock, and a vise. And you can get all of these for €100, $100 or less. So you can begin making your own tools without having to invest a lot. And it's a very satisfying process, and it gives you a lot of autonomy. I have to warn the viewers though that it's quite addictive. So it's inexpensive at first, but beware.
As soon as you start investing in more tools and more brass.
Exactly.
Speaking of brass, we discussed it like a couple of times before, but why brass? And is it just brass?
Well, it's brass and obviously wood for the handles. Brass, the reason for brass is that it doesn't rust. It's easier to work with compared to, let's say, iron. And the other thing is that in many cases, ferrous metals do a sort of chemical reaction with the leather, and they sort of discolor it. I don't know how to call it exactly. There's obviously
Market?
it's not Yeah, market, something like that. So basically, the brass is the most friendly metal you can use for this purpose when it comes to leather.
Okay. I'll read a couple of comments, not about the lost sound because we fixed that, but we have a couple of our regulars on YouTube watching us, probably some other people on Facebook as well. But we'll see if anybody else posts anything. So Dave Turnbull, afternoon from Scotland. Han Fleet, hello from Lancaster, United Kingdom. Welcome back. We've missed you. We've missed you too. I hope we'll gradually return to a better and more regular schedule of streaming, but we'll see how it goes. There will be, I don't know if it's a good moment to steal the thunder from Dimitris, but I will probably have to make an announcement a bit later anyway, because schedule for iBookBinding will be changing just a little bit in August, because I will be going on a paternal leave. And I will probably stop selling tools through my shop to private customers at some moment in July or something like that for a couple of months. I will continue selling wholesale, so my wholesale partners will continue selling my tools, and we are probably getting a partner here in the UK, so at least some of my tools will be still available to British customers. We have Schmet as usual. We have a partner in Spain. We have a partner in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in Hungary. So yeah, quite a few resellers to still have an option to buy our tools. But I'm not sure how that will affect the schedule of live streams. I hope there will be some time for that, but we'll see. So yeah, that's the announcement. Again, if anyone has any questions, please post please comment, please post your questions either on Facebook or on YouTube. If you'd like to share from where you are joining us, please do that. It's always fun to know about the range of our audience, and also there are some useful links in the description of this video, including the links to a website of Dimitris and his Instagram, and of course our social accounts, so you can follow us, share our stuff, and support us on Patreon. But let's dive in.
So you'll give me some time to adjust the camera.
Yeah, absolutely. First, we probably need to talk about your setup, because this is quite a precise setup for making the tools, I guess.
Yes, usually the wood against which people work is smaller. This is convenient for me for various reasons, but you need some kind of how can I call this?
Resting area, place to rest your
yeah,
yet made tool.
Exactly. So that you can press the tool against. Let me see if I can zoom in. Is that better?
Yeah, looks great.
So we'll begin with the line, and as you can see, I've created a wedge at the back of the tool.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about this later at the end of the process when it's time to fit it in the handle.
And you can probably do it with not with hand tools but with electric tools to save time and effort.
Yeah, you can, but it's not, if you don't have an angle grinder, for example, which makes the process much faster, you can still do it with good old elbow grease, with files and hard work.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've used a marker to let's see.
Yeah.
There you go. To paint the face of the tool, and Now I'm gonna mark a line using a center finder to use as a guide. Now it's important to remember that this doesn't need to be, you don't want to scratch the surface, you just want to remove the marker's paint, the color. So I've marked a line, and now let me get a bit of gloves, they offer more grip. So now I'm going to take a file and start removing material. Every now and then, check, see how I'm going.
I should probably add that firstly, there are some safety concerns, obviously. Always when you work with metal scrapings, filing stuff, and especially power tools, there are safety concerns. So everybody who is going to try something like that should be thinking about safety first. And there are plenty of videos concerning that on YouTube, so you can easily research that. But also, I wanted to say that stuff like center finding tool and stuff like that, you can also find information about them easily on YouTube. There are plenty of options how to do that, how to find the diameter of a circular object, how to find the central point, whatever. So we're probably not spending a lot of time during this video talking about this, but it's not hard to find information about it.
Yeah, that's you can find a lot of information online, and but also if you want, an explanation on something I said, feel free to drop a question as mentioned earlier. So now I'm creating.
Just a moment, Dimitris. I wanted to ask our viewers if what I was saying while Dimitris was filing was audible enough, or if I have to lower the sound from Dimitris' side when he's filing. So if you have any opinions about that, please tell us. It will be helpful for now and for future live streams, for future classes as well. So sorry, Dimitris, please continue.
Okay, let me adjust.
Somebody asks to show the center finder tool. If you could do this, just to that's the bottom side. Oh, it's symmetrical on both. Or no, it's not symmetrical. Yeah.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, it has a slot here, and you place whatever you're trying to find the center of. You place it
in the slot
there. Yeah. In the slot, yeah. So another thing to keep in mind is that files have grits, the same as sandpaper. You have the hand bastard, which is the roughest grit, to remove a lot of material fast, but it leaves deep marks, and then you move on to finer files. I'm currently using a second hand cut, which is the one after the hand bastard.
I will read a couple of comments while Dimitris is filing. So we have Teo Studio. Hello from Portugal. Hi Teodora. Nice to see you here. Nice to have you here. Antonio Neto, greetings from Brazil. Julia Boss from Rio de Janeiro. So we have at least 2 people from Brazil today. That's impressive. Then Antonio asked that he wouldn't be able to watch the whole thing today, and I answered there in the comments, but I will copy that for our Facebook viewers, that the video will be available almost right after the live stream ends. The recording will be available as usual. And then what else? Center tool, we talked about that. Yeah, that's it for now. People on Facebook are suddenly very shy and quiet. That's quite untypical. But again, if you'd like to tell us from where you're joining us, or if you have any questions, please don't be shy. We're always.
Sword for a really heavy one, but for a file, you could kill with it.
There might be some correlation. Who knows? As you can see, I've switched to a smaller file in order to smooth each side a bit. Now you can create the bevel. Let's see if I can. Now you can create the bevel going and make it go as far back as you want to allow better visibility when you'll be using the tool.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't, when you're making such a small thing, just a thin line, it doesn't matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to say is that there's a bit of a debate going on in regards to whether you should file with back and forth strokes or just forward strokes. People who are into jewelry making will probably know about this. It's what you hear a lot of the time is that you should only do forward strokes.
Mm-hmm.
The reasoning behind that is that by going back and forth, you'll round the teeth of your file and you'll ruin it. I can't say I really agree with that. I agree with the opinion that says that, the effect is not that intense, that, you don't ruin them that fast or that much. And since you're going to be doing, you might have to do hundreds or thousands of strokes when you're making tools. Lifting the tool each time can double the time you have to spend filing. So it might be, it might be more reasonable to actually save the time and just buy a new file when it goes bad. Anyway,
but it's good to have a choice.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dimitris, could you explain how do you control the angle? Because
by tilting the tool.
But how do you make it symmetrical? Purely by eye?
By eye, and then as you work with smaller files and as we'll move to sandpaper, then you tweak it. But you can get pretty accurate by eye, very accurate.
Depends on the eye and the hands. Probably not with mine.
Well, it comes with practice, Pasha.
So another thing I wanted to add to what I said before is that I do use just forward strokes, and we're going to be using them much more in the other two tools I'll be making when I want to have more precision. So if I want more control and more precision, I use just forward strokes. If you want to remove a lot of material fast, then you go back and forth.
So Dave Turnbull wrote, anything you use will eventually get worn out, but I can't see it being very quick. That's true. I even watched a few videos on YouTube where people created special machines to test their filing tools and stuff like that. And then
exactly.
they sort of emulated thousands of strokes in different directions, with different approaches, and in most cases the difference was negligible for most of the tools. So yeah, also in from the point of view of money spent on tools. So yeah.
And I guess with jewelers, it's also important where all the filings go, not so much with brass.
Yeah, especially if you're working with gold. Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So now I've moved on to sandpaper.
And as we already discussed it, I think it was during our talk with Tom McEwen, we discussed that the grids of sandpaper differ in Europe and in the US. Starting with some level of grid, they are different, but well, whatever. They are numbered differently. They are different themselves, but they are numbered.
With the lower numbers, they're basically the same, and they split. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really, didn't know that.
Yeah. So you can't say, well, you can say, but it will give different results for different regions. So I don't know, 500 grid would be different in Greece and in the United States. But once again, our viewers can research that on their own if they'd like to have more precise answers.
So, as you can see, I've sanded each side, and that's when you get it, and that's when you get it to be as even and as straight as possible by going through a bit of a grid progression. For just doing the sides, I'll say the numbers, and people can adjust accordingly based on where they live. After I'm done with the files, I'll move to 400 grid, and then I might go to 600 and 1,000. You don't need to go finer for the sides. It doesn't really do anything. But we will be working with much finer sandpaper when we'll be doing the tip. The faces of the tools. So now, basically, I've done,
because you sort of don't use the sides. You only need to have the tip perfectly polished and even.
So I want to be making a line that's half a mil thin, half a millimeter. But now I've basically sanded it down to a point. It's much thinner than that.
You tapered it completely.
I tapered it completely, and the reason is that later on, when I'll sand it, I'll sand to the point that it has the desired thickness. It's better to start from very thin and then sand to the thickness you want. You can achieve the thickness right away, but the thing is, you're going to be polishing the tool later on anyway, so it's going to get wider. That's why I get it, completely, have the two sides meet completely.
Do you use any contraptions to keep the tool absolutely vertical while you are polishing the point, or you once again do it by hand and by eye?
You don't need to.
Okay.
You don't need to. It's with just a bit of practice, it's not that difficult to achieve.
Okay.
So wait, let's do this now and leave the polishing part for later. So now I have 1,000 grit. It's important to keep the tool at 90 degrees. You don't want to tilt it unless you have reason for doing so based on the tool you're trying to make. So I'm doing some careful strokes being careful not to change the angle, and then always switch. Don't just do one side, because no matter how careful you are, you will still have some amount of, tilt. So by switching sides every now and then, you eliminate that.
Okay. Do you switch? So you switched 2 times. Do you switch like every time 180 degrees, or you choose different angles to?
When it comes to a line tool, then you only need to do 180. But when it comes to any other design that has a third dimension, then you need to go through quadrants. Switch it 90 degrees, do a bit, switch 90 degrees.
Okay.
So now I'll measure using a thickness gauge, and what do you know? We're almost there. So just a bit on the sides. There. Yeah.
And what kind of precision are you aiming at? You're using some very precise tools.
Well, you can get down to 100 if you're very, very careful. 100 of a millimeter.
I guess it also depends on what do you really need, and what kind of project are you working on. Sometimes you need high precision. Sometimes it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. It's all about the tolerance of any one project. For example, as I said, I want to get it down to 0.5 mil. Does it matter if it's 0.5? It's imperceptible to the eye. But if you go 0.7, then that's visible when you tool align with it. So we'll leave that tool there for now, and we'll return to it when it's time to polish it. And now we'll move to a teardrop, right? So now here, as you can see, I've made this, which is helpful. Basically, I insert the brass stock there, and this gives me much more control because I'm holding it with the lower part of my hand. Whereas if I was holding just this, there's not much sticking out at the bottom. So this is basically a handle that has a loose fit.
Okay.
I've also tapered the end, and this is, quite useful. So the process is similar here. The difference being that instead of keeping basically your tool mostly stationary and moving back and forth, now you have to actually tilt the tool as you're working, turn it around, and you also need to work around the tool with the file. So the motions involved get a bit more complicated. It's the next step.
We have a question before you move on. We have a question pretty relevant. Okay. How did you create the leaf picture on the tool? But I guess it was the same as you marked before. Yeah.
Yeah, just a marker.
So you use a marker and you just shape whatever pattern you'd like to get on your tool, and then you work around it.
Yeah, and you don't need to be very precise. Keep in mind, you want a rough shape at first, and then you can go back in and add details as you work. So what I'm doing is, as I'm working, I'm tilting it, I'm turning it around, and the same thing goes for the file. There's a curve to its movement.
I'm looking at it and waiting when I'll finally realize how you could make that Tolkien monogram with a technique like that. So far, very, very. So, what kind of shapes could be made with this technique? They need to be convex.
What kind of?
Mhm.
Could you ask again? What kind of what?
What kind of shape could you make using this technique? Like, could you make a heart shape, something that has a
Yes,
kink to it?
exactly. You can. We will be making a heart shape later on, but in order to make the heart shape, you need to introduce vertical motion with the files as well at the back. We'll see a bit later. So
I can see how that could get really addictive. You can see the result almost immediately. Like you barely started and already you can see the shape.
Yeah, I just
This is
wanted to say that I worked with brass a while ago, but I absolutely forgot how fast does it change shape when you start filing it, because it's a quite a soft metal. But it's yeah, you don't need much time. Well, you need much time to get precise results, but to get the initial shape, initial feeling of where
yeah,
you are going to. Yeah.
you can get the rough shape quite fast, especially if it's a simple shape, like in a matter of minutes.
How much of a taper
Um,
will you make for a tool like that, for a teardrop shaped tool or for a heart shaped tool? How much the taper will be critical for that kind of tool compared to a line?
Compared to a line.
Yeah.
Well, the idea is to have as steep of a taper as you can, um, because the more taper it is, the better visibility you have. But in if we're talking about simple shapes, you usually can see what you're tooling. It's not that important. I try I try to usually have a taper of let's see, do I have a, how much is this? This is zero point 0.7. I'd probably take it to to 10 millimeters if I can. Let's see. Yeah, somewhere like that, something like that. Let's switch. So obviously I'd persist more. There's you can fuss about a tool infinitely. You can spend an hour, 2 hours trying to get it just right. Is it necessary? No, not really, especially if it's going to be used by you. Now let's move to the finer one. There we
did you have any sort of nemesis tool or pattern you wanted to make, but you couldn't find the right approach to make it right or whatever? Or you usually think of a design and then you just do it?
Well, not when it comes to tools like this. What you say has happened when it comes to much more complex tools that have some sort of mechanical function. That's when things get really complicated. But then we're not talking about decorative tools. We're talking about other things.
Okay.
So I'll leave that. So we have. Let's see.
Speaking of jewelry, because of this red color, it does look somewhat like a ring. I don't know.
Like a?
Like a ring, like a gemstone set in metal.
The skills overlap quite a bit. I actually was had some goldsmithing skills, and that's one of the things that kept eating at me, that maybe you can use those skills to make tools in bookbinding. And turns out, yes, quite a few skills transfer pretty much exactly as they are. It just what changes is that you need to know well how the tool is going to be used in order to make it properly, the function. So now let's move to the leaf, and I'll make a small demonstration of how you can create small details and grooves. You have here. So let's see if it can see the profile, the tip. So it's this shape.
Okay.
Is it also made by you?
No. You can make them, but there's no need. They're really cheap to buy. So now it's probably, don't know if it can zoom enough.
Well, we can see a mark, but I can't say that we can see much.
And how deep do you need to make the engraving?
I'd say it depends on the detail. You might. There are some decorative tools that you can see certain details are fainter than others, especially if you're working with genuine gold. I usually try to go as far in, as deep as I can to basically, you can't go wrong with going deeper when you're carving a detail. But if it's too shallow, then that will show when you're trying to create an impression.
Well, unless you want it to show.
Yeah.
Unless
but for example,
you want it to show.
with a leaf, you usually want like the middle groove to be a bit wider, maybe not deeper, but certainly wider than the secondary grooves.
Exactly. Yes. And you want it, ideally you want it to taper a bit at the ends. So that's why this is an important detail. That's why I do a motion like this. So at the ends of the groove, I sort of lift the tool upwards because I don't want it to dig deep. And then turn it every now and then, turn it the other way, going from the opposite direction.
Dave Turnbull just wrote, there are many videos on how to make engraving tools. That as well, yeah, but also you can buy them.
So this is just roughly what will make what you're going to be looking at, and that's the reason I've marked I've used a marker on the tip, because if you don't have contrast, then you can't clearly see what your what your work is doing. Have I done have I engraved the surface area that I want? Is it deep enough? Is it pronounced? The marker helps with that. And you can insist as much as you want, make it smoother, make it deeper, widen it here and there.
Does it depend on the leather itself? I mean, how smooth you need to make the tool?
Does it depend on the leather, did you say?
Yeah, like I can see how you could see all those details, say, on a gold leaf, on a roughly leather with a rough surface. You probably don't need it that detailed anyway.
But you wouldn't. I don't think you'd make the. I don't think you'd make the tool to fit the leather, because you want to be using it, for many different leathers. But it's true that if you have a leather that has a very pronounced grain, then tools that have a lot of fine details usually don't work on it. That's why you either pick different tools that have a more suitable design, or you crush the grain with a polishing tool to make a more smooth surface for you to tool on. Now, what I've done is that I've poured some alcohol on a bit of paper. I'm removing the marker's color in order to create the shape of the leaf with a smaller marker, much finer one.
I just realized that after you finish with these tools, we need to persuade you to do a follow-up in a couple of months or something like that, where you'll use some simple tools to create a kind of amazing pattern.
Sure. We can. That would be nice.
Because it's often said that you don't need lots of tools to make something elaborate. Because we often our guests, you included, have tens, if not hundreds of tools, but really with 2 or 3 tools you can make a lot.
Yeah, some of the most amazing bindings I've seen have just a few leaves and dots. They knew back then. They knew how to create very eye-catching designs using just a few details. They're very striking. Does that mean that
talking about which, I have this nearby with a striking and catching design that was made with just a couple of tools.
Thank you.
Stepan, you should probably say to our viewers what it is you've just shown, because probably not everyone knows.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was a binding that Dimitris made for me for iBookBinding some time ago. With it's an early 19th century book that talks about crafts, book of trades, and one of the reasons I asked Dimitris to work with it is that. This book mentions bookbinding and paper making and I think printing as well. So it's a very relevant book. But if anyone is interested, we discussed this binding and this project in general on our live stream a couple of months ago. So maybe Pasha will share a link with everybody if Pasha is so kind. We can once again we can already see the shape starting to form.
So I'll pause here to show you a bit of progress. Let's see if I can get it to focus.
Yeah. We're getting to the most exciting and entertaining part, the top part of the heart shape. I think this stuff can be broadcasted like a sports game or something like that, you know, with the commentary from outside.
Yes, and also as an ASMR.
Yeah, that works too. Exactly.
That works too.
So now I'm going to be switching to a leaf-shaped file, and it has also, besides that, it has a semi-round profile. If you can see. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah.
And now I'm going to be working like this instead of working
Around
perpendicularly to the tool. Yeah, around the tool. So I'm creating an incision, and I'll try to show it to you.
I have to say, this already looks like sculpting, not like tool making. Yeah.
Now I'll place the file like this and try to round off each side. And as you can see, I'm using my thumb as a support.
So that, Pasha, shows you a bit of the process that was needed to get the Tolkien's monogram to.
Exactly.
And am I right in thinking that the more elaborate the shape you want to make, the more files of different shapes you need?
Exactly, and of smaller size. For example, see the file I'm using, and you can get much smaller than that. These are called needle files.
So it is sculpting with files.
Okay, that's interesting, because I just was thinking that this sort of files is called by a different word in Russian language, which probably came from German or Dutch, something like that, because they are called nadfil. And you told us that it's needle file, so nadfil and needle file, it really sounds similar. Maybe I don't know. I don't know from which language it came to Russian, but definitely it's not Slavic.
Give me a moment.
In Greek, it's called podikoura, which means the rat's tail, for example, those small files.
Okay.
From German, it means exactly needle file. Now we know.
Okay. What would the Russian language do without German and Dutch and French and whatever else?
It's not like Russian is special in that regard. English is exactly the same.
That's true.
Oh.
So this is, you can see that it has taken the form a bit.
Yeah.
And you can persist as much as you want, to your heart's desire until it's exactly the shape you have in mind, you need, and it's as smooth as necessary. For this kind of detail, I'm using as soft a file as I can. It has very, very smooth teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And just a tip, we won't go into that now, but there we go. When I'm making these tools for clients, for the tools I sell, I will then go around the tool. Once I'm done with the files, I'll use this. This is basically an abrasive rubber with abrasive particles on it. And I will use a power tool to go around the tool and make everything very, very smooth, as polished as possible. Is it necessary? No, you can, if you're very persistent, you can get an excellent result with files. This just takes it, to the next level, gives that extra touch that makes it even better. But it's perfectly usable with just files.
Yeah, the most important parts are to have a really smooth top surface and have no, how you call it, shavings or whatever on the edge, because that can ruin
burr.
everything.
Exactly.
For you. Yeah, burrs. Yeah, I forgot the word.
So let's just a bit of.
It's interesting to see that viewers on YouTube that joined us together today have much more patience than viewers on Facebook. I don't know if it's today or just this symptom of the difference of people who use Facebook or YouTube for watching live streams, because we started with the same number of viewers both on Facebook and YouTube. And now there are only a couple of people left on Facebook, and pretty much the same number of viewers on YouTube, which is, I don't know.
Well, well, this is one of the most meditative videos we've ever made.
That's
I'm very impressed. Yeah.
I was going to say that at some point, that making tools is a very meditative process indeed, because there's a lot of repetition. Breathing comes into play. As you file, you sort of synchronize your movement with breathing in and breathing out in many cases. So it draws you in. You go into the zone basically. So let's.
Dave Turnbull wrote, "It's enthralling."
It is.
So I'm going to describe the process, most of the polishing process, and just do the final steps. And the reason for that is that I pre-polish my tools. What does that mean? That before I do anything, I polish the tip of the blanks to a mirror finish. Why do I do that, and why do I recommend doing that? Because if you have a rough face, a rough end, and you create the shape you want, then you need so much sanding to get it to a smooth, polished surface that you lose a lot of the details you've created. So basically, it's better to begin with a polished tool, create the shape you want, and then just do the final steps of the polishing process again. And that way you lose a minimal or no amount of details.
And can you buy those rods pre-polished?
No,
No.
you have to do it yourself.
They're usually roughly cut, and they may not be even 90 degrees to the cylinder. So yeah.
No, they're not. They're not. Basically, you buy long brass bars and you have to cut them. It's easy. It's not doesn't require a lot of strength or it doesn't take a lot of time. And then polishing them is basically progressing from grit to grit to grit. And usually I start with 100, then move to 200, 4, 6, 8, 1,000, and after 1,000, it's 2,000 and 3,000. So, wait, no, there we go.
So this is much finer than what you'd use for wood, for example. I don't think you'd go over 1,000. Yeah.
Yes. You don't. You basically with wood, anything beyond 400 is pretty much pointless unless you have a very lustrous tool, wood, a wood that can produce a very smooth surface.
So like a really hard wood, something
Yeah,
really
hard
expensive and exotic, yeah.
and oily, yeah.
Polish sander, that kind of stuff, yeah.
So now I'm working on a 3,000 grit. Turning the tool around every now and then because I don't want it to have an angle at the end.
And why straight movements? Don't you get grooves from that? Why not like, in circles?
Because you won't be able to keep it perfectly, at 90 degrees if you do this. If it was a big tool, if it had a rather large surface, let me get one.
So more elaborate tools will still start in this video.
Let's see. Now this is a screw,
Okay.
but I used to use them for tool making. They're actually quite convenient because you can screw them in the handle and they'll never get loose.
Okay,
basically.
that's
But
smart.
Nice hack.
Exactly, but the downside is that they only come in certain sizes and they're quite expensive compared to the brass stock. It's like 5, 6, 7 times more expensive. But anyway, if I had a big surface like this one, then yes, you can use a circular motion. But when you have something that, like the teardrop here, then if you do that, it will tilt and you'll end up with a surface that's not even.
But why don't you do it in reverse then? Why don't you fix the tool and polish it from above with it precisely fixed?
You mean have something and
Wouldn't that work?
Because this is more practical. As I use it, it gets filled. I move next.
Unless you have some sort of contraption, you will still have to control the descending surface, whatever direction your tool is pointing. So there is still a chance to make the wrong angle. You can create a contraption that will sort of slide over that will hold the tool vertically and will sort of slide over the sanding surface. And for example, for sharpening chisels and stuff, there are special sort of not trolleys, or I don't know how to call them, contraptions that move on the wheels
Yeah,
over
they have wheels.
yeah,
Exactly.
over the sanding surface. So you can do something like that. But do you need to do that? Maybe if
No,
if
not
you're
in
making
this case.
thousands of tools, maybe then it will save some time for you. But yeah.
Actually, what I do is that in order to pre-polish them, the final polishing always needs to be done by hand. But in order to pre-polish them, one thing you can do is stick them in a drill and spin them, and then hold a sandpaper against them, and that makes the process much faster. But you have to be sure that that it doesn't wobble at all.
Yeah.
So now I've worked. I've done the teardrop with the 3000. I'll move to the straight line. And a small tip here when it comes to making lines, you want to soften the edges, the tips of the line. So I do like this. I don't know if you can see it. It's sort of a motion like this. I want to round them just a tiny bit, because otherwise they'll bite into the leather when you're using them. I can already feel it, that it bites into the sandpaper.
Yeah, we can even hear that.
You don't want that. So yes, you round them just a tiny bit, enough that you don't change the dimensions of the piece. And let's do a leaf. Okay, good enough. Now, obviously, this process is much more meticulous when it's done, to produce a tool that you're going to be using for many years, or a tool that you plan to sell. This is just, as I said, a brief demonstration.
Yeah, but that's one of the parts of the process that you go as far as you want. You can
Exactly.
create a sharp or a rough tool, or you can create a very precise and a tool with the smallest details. You just how much time you'd like to spend on it, and how much effort.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do last not just for years, but for decades and sometimes centuries. Right?
Yeah, for a lifetime, basically. Someone showed me a tool that was, I think, from the 16th century, and it was still perfectly usable. It had lost a bit of detail, but you can actually, go in and fix it. So, what is this? Now, this is the final polishing stage. This is a tight leather, a dense, thick leather. This is cowhide, but you can use horse butt, which is used to strop knives. It's the same thing. Basically, you want a very smooth, very dense leather. And I've rubbed jeweler's rouge on it, which is basically a polishing compound, a soap that has polish that we use to polish pieces. So, and then you go back and forth, turning the tool as you go to get an even, nice finish. Yeah, I can basically see my face on it. I don't know. I'll try to show it to the camera. Don't know if it's going to be possible. You can see it mirrors.
Yeah.
And the same, you do the same with the rest of the tools. And this is the same process, no matter, it doesn't matter if you're doing a thin line, this, or, you know, an entire palette.
And you don't use, I saw for polishing, I don't know what it's called, grid, but like a paste you put on metal.
What? A paste? What?
Like a paste, I don't know. It looks like toothpaste with sand, basically.
Oh, there are different, you know, there are different products. Some are in cream form. This comes in the form of a soap bar, basically. Jewelers use them, you know. There's a machine that has a spinning brush, and as it spins, they push the soap against it. It picks up the material, and then they push a ring, for example, against the brush as it spins in order to polish it.
By the way, as you showed us a palette, I wanted to ask, where do you get, or what kind of, what shape of metal you get to make palettes?
A flat sheet, basically, and you have to cut it into shape. You have to cut the outline, then file it, and then you file the angle, and then you know, and then you go over it like this, being very careful with a very fine file, and you can get a very accurate result. Again, if you're patient, if you're careful, you can, and mark it properly and follow the guide marks, you can get an excellent result.
Yeah.
So basically, we've polished our tools, our 3 tools, and now we're going to see how to set them in a handle. Are there any questions as I'm switching the camera to the vise?
Not from the audience. I wanted to address one of our viewers, Theodora, and ask if she makes tools for her designs herself. It would be really interesting to know if of course Theodora wants to share this information and answer this question. I'm not pushing anyone, pressing anyone. But yeah. So what's next with Dimitris?
So let me.
There is a question: how you shape the back of the tool? We started with this in the beginning, but maybe it was during the moment when there was no audio.
You mean the wedge?
Yeah.
Basically, it's filing. You just have to be patient. If you have a big file that is rough enough, a hand bastard that's big enough, like, let me show you.
Or you can use an angle grinder.
Or you can use an angle grinder, yes, but you know it just takes more time. You can create this wedge in like 5 to 10 minutes, maybe. So you want to create a wedge, and I usually also add, let me show you. I usually add some notches,
yeah.
to give the wood and even
And do
better.
they need to be inclined the same way the wedge is, or counter to it?
Ideally, you want them to be looking upwards so that the tool, it's not easy for the tool to
So
slide out of the
it
handle.
goes in but doesn't want to
Yeah, like
go
a hook.
out, like a
Exactly.
harpoon.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
bites a bit into the wood. So we have a couple of more comments. I will read them before we move to the next section. Firstly, Theodora answered, no, Dimitris was kind enough to give me some blanks and I tried to. But to achieve this precision, especially the engraving part, is actually much harder than it seems. That's true, yeah, and you need to spend some time adjusting and trying and failing probably in the beginning. Then Mary B wrote, I guess when someone is really good at doing something, it looks easy. That's true. That's also true. And also, yeah, and also Dave Turnbull posted a question: what about cleaning old tools? Well, I guess the process is similar, but you have to
sort of.
you have to take into consideration the same approach as with the book restoration and repairs. You have to do better, not worse, with your efforts.
Exactly, and it depends on what do you mean by cleaning. Are they just? Do you just want to give them? Is there muck on them? Are they? Do they have scratches? What kind of material has accumulated on them? Is it grease? Is it just is it rust? I don't know. I assume we're not talking about iron tools. We're talking about brass decorative tools. Usually, in order to clean them, ideally you would need a power tool and certain small brushes, but they have to be very soft. You have to work at not at high speeds, and you need to be very careful because it's easy to deform the tool as you're trying to clean it. Let me get the handles. I have them in water, and I'll explain a bit of the process.
But also, not all of the old tools are really fixable or fixable easily enough, because quite often they have damage, dents to the lines. Sometimes you can sort of reshape an old tool in a new tool of a slightly different design, but once again, when you start this project, you should consider whether you are making it better or worse, or whether you are destroying it completely. So that's probably it's better to start with either cheap old tools that don't have any cultural or historical value, or with just blanks, as Dimitris showed us today.
Exactly. It's if the tool you want to work on are quite intricate, then it's best to keep them for when you will have a bit of experience with the process. Now, how regarding setting them?
So what kind of wood do you use? Does it really matter what kind of wood?
And also, why were they in water?
Why they are in what kind of wood? I think it's how would you call it, oxia? I think it's oak. I'm not sure if oxia is oak.
Pasha can check. Google it. Talking about the handle material. A couple of months ago, I got a message from someone on iBookBinding's email, and they told me that they have a set of tools with asbestos handles. And I didn't even know that there existed tools for bookbinding, finishing tools for bookbinding with asbestos handles. And this person had bought them or got them from, he didn't buy them, he got them from somewhere. But the thing is, he offered to sell them to me. And I researched it a bit, and it's illegal in the UK to sell any kind of tools with asbestos in them. You can only dispose of them in a proper way through companies that dispose of asbestos. So you cannot sell stuff like that. And I explained that to this person because, well, if they try to sell it, it can be, well, first it's dangerous, but it's also completely illegal. So, but it was an educational moment for me as well. Yeah.
So I looked it up. The wood is beech.
Oh, okay.
Beech tree. Or so Google says in its infinite wisdom. So what's the preparation? First is that you have to drill a hole, and you have to make it as straight as possible, because if there's a small tilt, then the tool will stick out at a weird angle. With a bit of practice, you can get that quite well. You can achieve a very straight hole. The other thing, and this is important, is that I drill two holes basically. One hole with a smaller drill, and then I drill on top of that at half the depth with a wider drill. Why do I do that? Because if you just do if you just use a wider drill, then you only have basically the upper part of the wedge engaged with the wood, gripped by the wood, and you have the thinner part basically loose. But if you have a two-step hole, then you offer the handle the maximum possible grip, ensuring that your tool will stay tight in there for much longer. I haven't had to replace any of my tools done in this way so far.
And could you make the hole in the shape roughly of the wedge, like, I don't know, like a cone?
You don't need to, because as it gets compressed, it takes the shape of the tool, of the wedge. Basically, for example, even if the stock I'm using is, let's say, square, it's square stock, then you see that the hole, if you get the right size, and it needs a bit of you need a bit of experimentation. Excuse me, sorry.
And you said it compressed. Is that why it needs to be soaked in water, so that it compresses easier?
So you put the handles in water because you need. If you don't, they will crack when you try to fit them. You need them to be soft. You need them to be malleable, to take the shape around the wedge. The process I usually do is like this. I place them entirely submerged in water for an hour, then take them out and put water just in the hole for another hour. Why do I do that? Why don't I just leave them in water? Which is what I did now, for the podcast. But normally I do the two steps I described. The reason I do that is because if you just leave them in water for 2 hours, they swell, and they swell in a way that in many cases they lose their round shape. They become sort of oval. Does that matter a lot? No, it's, it doesn't affect the tool's use. So you can just put them in water for 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's fine. But if you want them to be round, if that's your preference, then you have to, it's recommended that you do what I do.
I just, before you move to the next step or to the final step, I just wanted to add a little comment about drilling the hole perfectly aligned with the handle. If you want to invest, if some of our viewers want to invest a bit more in tools, you can also use a drilling press, and you can use a center.
Yes, exactly.
The same approach with a center contraption with a drilling press. And the cheapest drilling presses are are not expensive. So it's, if you are unsure about making a perfectly aligned hole in the handle, just get the cheapest drilling press, align it well enough, and that would be enough.
Exactly. So I use a piece of cardboard instead of hitting the handle itself. And it's in. It's not going anywhere. And as it dries, it shrinks, it tightens around the tool even more. Let's do another one. Now, another way you can do it is, if you don't want to use a vise, you can use it against, your table surface. It's just that ideally you don't want to be exerting force at the face of your tool, which might have fine details. That's why I'm using the vise.
But also, you are placing the tip in a holder so that it wouldn't be damaged by the vise itself. Is it right?
Yeah, exactly. That gives me. I'll show it to you right after this.
But you can. Yeah. You can also use strips of thick leather, or even cardboard, or wood, or soft wood, something like that. Yeah, to place it in a vise if you don't have a holder like that.
I've made this, but even another way you can do that is by basically squeezing two pieces of wood together, drilling a hole at the center between them, and you get the same result.
Yeah.
If you want to avoid, the grip of the vice's teeth against the brass. So that's it basically. That's the process. Voila. And you can, as you saw, let's say that I wasn't making 3 tools, I was making 1. You could make a tool, and one that has a lot of detailing on it in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to make them in batches, because there are lots of repeating processes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be switching constantly between tools, between working stations. So it's best if you devote some time, make a lot of blanks, have them prepared, and then you can sit, because you also need to keep in mind that in some cases you'll ruin a tool, you'll file it too much, or it won't end up having the shape that you want. So you don't want to be starting over from scratch at that point. You want to just grab another blank and keep working.
But also I should add that sometimes mistakes like that allow you to create even more exciting tools, because, well, if it's already ruined, you can experiment with it. You can add some strange designs to it. You can add more detail to it somehow. It would be a different tool, not usable for your current project, but it can be a beautiful and exciting tool that you can use in the future. So don't throw away ruined blanks until they are completely ruined.
Exactly. And you can always use a ruined blank to make a smaller tool. For example, if the teardrop ended up not what I wanted it, I can always use it to make a dot, or an even smaller, a smaller leaf. So you can't really ruin them. Even if you ruin them completely, you can sand off the end, completely, and then basically you still have your blank.
That was great. So I guess that's
and perfect timing too. That is like
yeah. We'll probably give the last opportunity to our viewers to post any questions if they would like to do that. Once again, please check links in the description of this video. There are plenty of useful links there. Firstly, links to Dimitris' Instagram and website. There is more information about his projects there, and more tools shown there as well. But also links to our social accounts. Yeah, Dimitris.
I would like to also add that I do offer tool making workshops for anyone interested, which are obviously much more extensive than what we saw now. So if you plan to travel to Athens and you would like to get back home with a few new tools, do
and
send
a
me
few new skills.
Exactly.
That's a great idea, by the way. Go to Greece, study some tool making. What could be better for your vacation? Yeah, probably it's already a hot season starting in Greece though. So maybe maybe
right about now.
A bit earlier would be perfect, like in April or maybe early May, something like that. But anyway, if you like heat, you can go right now.
And if you like Athens, which everybody should.
Anamidis asks, can we see the brand of the center finder?
The center finder is it won't be able to pick up the details, but it says Moore and Wright, Sheffield, England.
Okay, from England. But there are like plenty of options, and it's a really simple tool. It's really hard to make it wrong,
Even very cheap versions will be perfectly serviceable.
Yeah. So Hanfleet, that was a delight to watch. It was like magic. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Mary B, lovely workshops sound interesting. Yeah, absolutely. If you are ready to travel to Greece, or maybe if you are in Greece already, Dimitris is ready, and you can find his contacts again on his website, or you can reach out to him through Instagram. I'm going to Athens to do a bookbinding course with Dimitris, so looking forward to that. Okay, yeah, that's even better.
Perhaps one more question from me. I just realized, so Dimitris, you said that it takes, and we saw that it takes like an hour to make a U-shape tool. I imagine the more complicated the shape, the more it takes. And I was wondering, how often do you make like project-specific tools? I saw this last one of your last projects. I think it was 1984 with those doodles.
With the figures, yeah.
So they were clearly made for the project. So is it a common practice for you to?
That's a good question. First, I would like to add that it doesn't take too much time, especially when we're talking about simple shapes. But there's a big but in there, that you have to also account for the time of going to buy the brass stock, of going to buy the wood, of cutting everything. There was a lot that was prepared in what I showed you. There was a lot of work done in advance. So it's not, you need to take into account that there's a lot of time that you didn't see in all of this. Now, that said, how often do I make project-specific tools? The quick answer would be probably more often than I should, because it takes a lot of time.
Because you can, basically.
That's the thing. If you have the ability, you get carried away. You start thinking in that way that, oh, I could make this or I could make that, and you get into the rabbit hole. And it's the thing is that tool making, it's not stressful. Bookbinding, especially certain stages, can be stressful, whereas tool making, it's relaxation. You don't worry about anything basically. So it really draws you, especially if you're thinking, oh, I could add this to my current bookbinding project. Now, how often does it actually happen? It depends. It depends really. I'd say, for one in every 5 or 6 bindings, I might make a new tool. It also might not necessarily be project specific. I might need a new palette, for example, and just working on a binding might be an excuse to make that palette. It doesn't mean that it will be used only on that project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that's it. A couple of last comments, just to make it even better. Dave Turnbull spend holidays creating some nice and useful, something nice and useful. Sounds good to me. I absolutely agree.
That's the spirit.
And Dimitris is a very nice person and one of the best artists in bookbinding. Thank you, Dimitris. I couldn't agree more. As usual, it was a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you to everyone who joined us today for live stream and asked their question. Thank you to everyone who just watched and hopefully enjoyed this live stream. And thank you to everyone who will watch this video in the future. Please check the Dimitris Instagram account and reach out to him if you'd like to study tool making, bookbinding, or whatever other crafts and skills Dimitris is teaching, and he's amazing. That's absolutely true. As I said, hopefully you'll find time to join us at some moment in the future, maybe to show using some of these simple tools, because I think that would be a great idea.
We can discuss that.
And,
sure.
and a great continuation of this online lesson. But we'll try to for our next iBookBinding class, we'll try to find somebody else to to switch it up a bit from person to person, not to have always the same tutor, the same teacher with us. And hopefully quite soon we will be able to give you information about our next live stream, because, well, for sure Pasha and I enjoy a lot this time we spent talking to bookbinders and other artisans. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. We'll stay for a bit longer because the stream has to drop on both YouTube and Facebook, but that's it for today.
Dimitris, I have to say, even